Hey guys, I'm Brian.
And I'm Terry.
And welcome to the Forest Farm Project. What are we doing today?
Well, we're going to show you a little bit about what we're doing out here as far as setting up to put some footing and foundations in.
We're almost there.
Yes.
We just have to work the water around where my house is because we got a nice slope.
Yeah, there's...
I'm going to put Dad on camera here for you.
If you look up this way, the ground here is higher. Comes down, the house starts about where these pink flags are. You can see that post over there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And Brian's house will be setting right there. Mine's on down the hill. We'll worry about that later. Right now, we want to take the water coming down this hill. We don't want it just plowing into the side of the house and then soaking the crawl space. So we want to take the dirt at the back of the house and slope it back on the uphill side, but downhill from the house. And then let that hill be a little bit steeper. And they're going to form a trough or ditch. And then that's going to be shaped so that it goes all the way around the house site and send water down through the woods that way and out back through the woods, which is eventually going to be field back there. So,
but it's going to be a nice looking ditch.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just going to be a contour in the ground, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're kind of planning this out on paper. We overkill everything, but the more you plan, the less mistakes you make. So we want to, first thing we want to do is kind of figure out, well, what's the slope here? We're going to draw it on paper. And I said, well, should I draw the line like this or like this? You know, how steep is it? So the first thing we're going to do is show you how we're laying this off just to get, we put two stakes out here just to figure out what is the actual slope. So when we draw it on paper, we can say, okay, this is at 30 feet, it drops a foot or a foot and a half, whatever, and we can draw that on paper and then start laying everything off and get a better idea how it's going to look on paper before we actually come out here and do the work. Might be a little bit of overkill, but we're going to do it. So let's get started. All right, so we got our little handy dandy string here, and we're going to hook it around this post like so. Ooh. Now the dummy in me is going to come out because I'm not sure how to tie this off. All right, so I've got the string tied to that stake down there, and we're going to slip this string over here just to give us a little reference. And we got this little string bubble level you can see. So we're going to come out here, I guess roughly in the middle, and hook it on here. Man, that's pretty close already. I need to take this side up or that side down, don't I? How's that look?
That's pretty close.
You tell me when it gets level.
Center.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. So as you can see, the bubble level is centered. It's hanging on this string. Now we can come down here, and since this string is level, we can see that the ground is right at 29 inches drop from this point, 30 feet away, which would be this, by the way. This line represents the front of Brian's house. So this is the side. It's actually between the garage. We're just measuring it here. But anyway, so this is the front of the house. So at the front of the house, from this point, it's 29 inches down. You come back here, and we're looking at about 17 inches down. So we'll just note that for now. When we draw this drawing out in the shop, we know that at 30 feet,
we've got a foot drop.
We've got a one foot drop. Yeah. No, what was it, 29?
29, 17, it's 12.
Man, that couldn't get any better. So it's one drop in 30 feet. One foot drop in 30 feet. So, okay. Now, next we want to determine we want the house to have basically two steps. You're going to come up to the front of the house, and there's going to be one step, and then the porch, and then you go in the house. So it's going to have a front porch on it. So we want, one step's going to be around 7-8 inches, and then the porch will be about that. So that's basically 2 blocks. So we want a 40-inch crawl space, which is 5 blocks high. We're going to do a block foundation. So if it's going to be 40 inches high and we want 2 blocks out of the ground, we're going to have 3 blocks under the ground, which is 2 feet under the ground. So if it's 2 feet under the ground on the front, we got to figure out what do we want under the ground back here and be able to have the dirt high enough that it will slope away from the house.
And we want 1 block exposed on the back of the house.
And 1 block exposed. Gets a little complicated. That's why we're going to draw all this out on paper and make sure that before we move all this dirt, that we're moving the proper amount of dirt and the proper depth and getting the right slope. We don't care what it ends up on the back side. We can, if it's steep, it doesn't matter. We can mow up and downhill if we had to. I don't think it's going to be that steep. We'll be able to mow it, so it's going to be all right. But we definitely want it sloping away from the house. So we're going to reset these posts in the ground in this hole, and then we'll come back and show you what we're doing. Okay guys, a little afterthought here. We've got this string still on these pipes and it's level. So I'm marking where this string meets what height it is on this pipe. And we know this to be, I'm gonna measure it again to be sure, but it's 29 inches. This tape measure is not a good one, 29 inches. So I'm gonna write 29 down to there. And that way we can come back and document all this and don't have to remember. So let's do the other end right quick. And 17 inches. So I'm gonna mark it right where it's at. That's 17 inches. And I should have wrote the 17 above like I did before, but that's good enough. 17 inches down. Alrighty, let's set these in the hole. All right, so in case anybody's wondering, this is a 1/2 inch EMT conduit. We're electricians, so it just makes sense. We have a lot of scrap pieces. But this makes good stakes. If you need some you can reuse a lot. They're galvanized steel. They're not going to rust real bad. You can beat on them. They don't split like wood, although they will bend if you beat on them too hard. But it makes a nice little stake for what we're doing. So I'm going to drive this in the ground.
And the ground's hard as a rock right now.
Yes, it is. It's dried out and getting hard. That should do there. That is roughly the front of the house. And we've used these stakes for other stuff around here. That's roughly the front of the house. And if you can see, Brian's up on the hill there. You see that we've already moved a good bit of dirt here, just getting a rough idea where this house is going to set. It made it easier to start planning the exact grade because we've already got part of it done. So that one's down there. This is going to be roughly the back of the house right here. Again, it's not exact. We're just getting close right now. Now that we've got the pieces of conduit, our stakes marked as to what height they are from the ground, and we've got all this laid off, we can go ahead and pull this string off and use it over here now. So reach right there. And there's a bubble. I thought it disappeared on me. Come off of there.
Pull that flag out.
Let go of me. All right, and that's going to be loose. I was afraid of that. I didn't have them quite as far apart. That's okay. All right. Now, let's see where we're at. String level. Lordy, lordy, I'm just about right on. How's it looking?
You are just about perfect.
Down a little bit more? Probably touching one line or the other. What's it looking like?
Just a hair lower. Oh.
Okay. Now, we've got this ground tilted a little bit that way when we dug it out. Didn't get it perfect, but we're going to straighten it out. Okay, so, as we said a while ago, we want to put the front of the house. You're going to come up to the house and there's going to be a step out here. Then you're going to step off of that step onto the porch itself. We're guessing roughly 16 inches for those two rises in elevation from the ground level out here to the porch area. So that's going to be about 2 cement blocks high. So that will be 18 inches high out here, right?
16.
So, yeah. I'm not mathing too good this morning. So 16 inches. Let's see here. I'm gonna mark that. Again, this is all rough. We're trying to get the grade close so that the water drains away from this house as we're building it. When we come back to finish, we're gonna get it right, whatever we gotta do. So that's 16 inches, right? 16 inches to the ground. And I'm gonna move this down there. So I'll have to go move that one down now, about the same. Is that about right? Getting close?
A little lower.
A little lower?
Oh.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay. So, we should be close. This is not far off there. This is, exactly 16 inches. We got leveler than we thought we did. Down from there. So, basically, we're going to be 2 blocks high right here on the back. Just like we are the front here. So we've got this thing set, and this string's level, so 16 inches down was what we were planning for the front, 16 inches down from here for the back. But if you'll look, this ground right here is, there's a lot of dirt to move. Otherwise, that's going to be up on the wooden part of the house. We got to keep it down below the block level. And we want at least about a block exposed, and then the rest of it underground. Well, one thing you can look at here is when we put this hole here, if you'll look, get over that way once, Brian, let's show this. You can see that this drops off right here. Can you see that from the video?
Turn over, you can see.
Okay, you can see I'm on top of a mound. That hill's coming down here. We didn't want to have this house site flooded full of water until we get in here building, which has been months. So we've got a mound of dirt here. So when the water comes down, it's washing around rather than going into the house site, and it kept us from having a swimming pool in here and washing everything away. So when that comes off, we're probably looking roughly a foot to a foot and a half, I'd say, wouldn't you? Drop off right there. So that puts us somewhere, let's see, that puts us about where our block was going to end. And that's just a little over a foot from what I can eyeball and see. Well, we'd like it down lower. We got to thinking about it. Good, you know, that's why you come in here and plan. This might seem simple, and a lot of people say, just go in there and dig the hole and put the house in there and then work it out. Well, we don't want to do that because we want to make it fit the property. And the fact is, we were so concerned with drainage on the back, having this hill sloping down towards our houses, we weren't thinking that much about the front. And we just got to talking about it, and the front of that house, the ground's flat. We're going to raise it up another block and then backfill the front side and slope it away from the house around the front porch and everything, so that any rain that comes down will wash away from the house out there as well. So we need to bring both of these up another 8 inches, basically, which would be another block. And by doing that, we're at 16 inches off the ground there, the current ground. So this will be 24 inches. 24 down to there. And let's go to the other end and do the same thing. I think that's going to be about right there. Let's see. About a 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch off, something like that. And yeah, I can go from the ground. That's the easy thing. There's 24. Let's make sure the string level's right. It should be right on the money. So now we've got this house setting at 24 inches above the grade out here. We'll have 2 blocks sticking above the dirt, and that'll allow us room for a porch and a step down. And then that last block is going to be sloping downhill that way to keep the rain away from the house. Back here, when we dig this down, that is currently hitting about, oh yeah, we'll come below that. So that's the top of the block where the wood starts on the house. And that ground is lower than that, so by the time we slope it in, we're going to be down here. We'll be about a block or so low, and then we can slope. We'll take the box blade of the tractor and we'll slope this and just keep working it away from the house at a downward angle. And then whatever the other side works out to, we're just going to make it look pretty. We don't care what that angle is. We want to keep the water going away from the house. That's the main concern. So basically, first we determined what the slope of the land is out here so that we can go home and roughly on paper draw out a slope at that angle just to get a visual on what it's looking like out here. Now we've laid out in here, where are we going to set this house in the ground and how deep do we want to set it so that our 40-inch crawl space ends up high enough out of the ground to give us the slope we want to keep the rainwater from washing into the house, because we need to slope that ground away from it. So I think we've got that determined, and you know, this planning, we were thinking a block lower, standing up there, but it's a lot deeper here than we thought. So this paid off. And doing this little bit of preliminary work is going to save you from having to come back in here and fill dirt back in because you went too deep, or you have to say, well, now I'm going to have to use a whole nother course of blocks, which is going to be money. And if you're not doing it yourself, it's a lot more money because you got to pay somebody to do it. So a little bit of planning goes a long ways. Now we're going to take a notebook, jot down the numbers that we've come up with here, and go back to the shop, draw this out on paper, evaluate it, and make sure that what we're doing is what we want to do. I'd rather take some time on paper, planning and measuring and getting things roughly figured out and not doing any physical work, as opposed to coming back and fixing what we messed up. So let me get that notebook. All right, so let's jot these numbers down. We've got a slate grade, and then we've got a cutout where the house is, and I'm just doing a rough mark here. So we had a post here and a post here on top of that grade, and this one was 29 inches to the ground. I'm just gonna write it under there, 29 inches, and the other one was 17, wasn't it? I remember that. Then inside the hole, I'm going to draw them here, even though they're actually in line with these, but just for a rough sketch. And they were both 24 inches. So 24 inches, 24 inches, and everything was at a 30-foot distance. And then basically we're going to go, and our whole plan is figure out how high above this ground we want our cement blocks to end up. And coming on down here, we'll have blocks. And then how much of a slope we want on our dirt so the rainwater comes down and washes around the house. Let's go back to the shop and figure this out.
Okay, we're back in the shop, and we're going to put these figures on paper and see what it looks like.
Yep. We don't have any large pieces of paper like what's the size is 11 by...
Like 11 by 14 or 13 by 19 or whatever. So we've just got 2 pieces of printer paper.
And we're the type of people that we say there's no problems, there's only opportunities for solution.
That's it.
Our solution is tape 2 of these together and that'll get the job done.
Since we want to do a 1/4-inch scale and have it to scale, we need to do something that will allow that. So
yeah, it won't fit on
it. Was too big to be on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper because it would be really confined. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm his tape depository for messed up tape. Yeah. And it happens a lot.
No.
Only every time he gets duct tape out.
Oh, well, that's not an accident.
Yep.
Alrighty. Tapey. Alright, so get this turned over.
Get these extras out of here.
Let's go ahead and draw this out. You ready?
Yeah, let's draw it out.
Okay, guys, we're using a scaled rule. You can see 1/4 size. Down here we have 1/2 size. There's standard inches. There's metric on here. But what we're working with is quarter scale, so 1/4 inch is going to equal 1 foot. Now, we're just going to have a line here and call it, I'm going to draw this line in blue. This is just going to be level, so we have something to go by. And I'm not saying it's perfectly level, we're just trying to get a reference point here. So, you're supposed to draw with your triangle, not on your, it won't mess your ruler up, your scale. So I'm just going to give us a reference line. That's just level. Now, the grade was, according to our paper, we had a 12-inch drop. It was 29 inches from our level mark on the pipe on the low end of the lot to the ground, and it was 17 inches, man, this is messy, from the string to the ground on the high end, which is a difference of 12 inches. So, we'll draw the grade in green, even though it's dirt out there. That would be your normal grass level, your grade. So, where's my quarter? There it is. I'm going to turn this around so I can see it easier. So, we're going to call this the, let's extend this a little further first, because we want to come out this way further with it. Hold on. Okay. So, now, this is going to be the front of the house. And this is a low point on the lot out there where we were measuring. So going with the quarter scale, this is going to represent the low side of the lot. This is going to represent the high side of the lot, and going on uphill, just as I've got my ruler. This would be level ground. Our ground's not level, it slopes upward. So we're going to show you that slope on this paper. And I'm going to mark, we measured between the poles was 30 feet. So here's one, and here is the other. And at 30 feet, we were 12 inches up. Well, this is a 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So there's 2 scales on each side. You got half scale. If you start from 0, it goes 0, 1, so that'd be a 1/2 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot. But you notice these other numbers are counting the other direction. That's for this quarter scale, which I've now got upside down. So it's 0, 1, 2. So you're only marking the actual numbers that correspond to the quarter scale are 2, 4, 6, 8. But then the half marks are where you're 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So anyway, we were 30 feet from 0 to 30. It's a foot high, which is a 1/4 inch. There's 2 foot, so half of that's 1 foot, so it's a foot high. So we're not talking about a really steep slope, but at that 30-foot distance, from that point to that point, this is the grade. It's a steady, gradual uphill. It's not real steep, but when you start talking about rain over a large piece of land, and that water falling and rolling downhill, you don't want it going in the house. So, this blue line, we're going to let that represent the wedge that we had cut out there. I'll go over top of that with brown. At the back of this 30 foot, this is about where that embankment started. And we had already cut out a wedge in the ground. So that's the wedge we'd cut out. This is a slope, the land is sloping. And this is where the house will set down in there. And it's going to set down in here. This green line, again, represents the natural slope that's out there. But in addition to that, I'm going to show you in this brown here, there's dirt piled there that we had piled so that when water runs down this hill, it goes around the house site instead of down in it and washing all this away. So that mound has got to go in order to determine exactly where this falls on the block here. But we're not going to concern ourselves with this at the moment. Now our concern is over here at the front of the house. We want to have, Brian's going to have basically a step, and this is not going to be to scale at all, and then a porch, and then it'll go on into the house. So, very crooked. Anyway, so we got to determine how high does that need to be. Well, that's
going to be around the 8-inch block and another 8-inch block, so you have one step and then up onto the house level. So that's 2 blocks high. But we also want to be able to put dirt in front of the house and have it slope down away from the house to keep the drainage going properly. So we want to be 3 blocks high, and we'll fill 1 block, and then this will cover 2 blocks, and we'll be in the house. So 3 blocks high is 24 inches, because they're 8 inches per block. So it's 8, 16, 24. So there's 2 foot right there. And that'll be right at this 30-foot mark, or 30-foot mark. So that'll be 2 blocks high there. We'll do the same thing back here, 24, because the block's going to be the same height all the way around for the house. So you're going to have 3 blocks high. It'll be right here. But then we will slope the dirt off out here so that when the rain falls, it washes away from the house. So back here, we're going to have to dig this back, just like we've dug out for this house. This is going to be the top of our wall here, the block wall. Obviously, the house is going to go on up, much higher, but the block is what retains the soil, and that's the only thing you want to expose to the dirt. You don't want your house exposed. So we're going to come down 8 inches with 1 block low, and then we're going to slope down from the house into what is the current grade, and then do whatever we have to slope that back and form a ditch right here, where when this water comes down the hill, it goes into that ditch. Anything that comes off the house runs down into that ditch, and then it flows around the house either way. And you're looking at a cross section here. The house would be here, and the roof would be up here, and the house is sitting like this down in this hole. This is what we got to create, is this slope right here. We don't want water running straight into that foundation and working its way down to the footing and washing it out, or just filling the crawl space with water. And that happens. We see it happen on new houses quite often, and they have to come back and figure out, how are we going to get this water to drain? We don't want to wait and do that after we build this house. We want to set this house properly now. So in addition to these thoughts, we have to figure one more thing, and that is, if that's 24 inches and we're going 40, that's another 16 inches down. Since we've got 3 blocks above grade, we're going to come down, we're going to come down 2 blocks below grade, which is about right there. And we will come down the same on this end. So our actual house is going to set under that ground, something like that. So we're going to have to dig down some more where the house actually sets, and then they'll actually have to dig down more and put footings around too. But right now we're just trying to get what's the bottom of this crawl space going to be.
Well, I know that sounds a little complicated.
It is complicated.
But it did help us to determine that we need to have that extra block on the front, which I think is going to be a good thing. Otherwise, we would have had to add more material, or we would have to take away more dirt. So that was a good find going out there this morning and doing that.
Oh yeah. It's a little bit complicated, but planning ahead, that's the main thing. Go and see, how is this land laid? Mm-hmm. How deep do I want that house? If we didn't do this, and we got in there and we realized, the dirt's going to be up against the wood on our house on the back, we either got to dig a deeper hole, or if we've already got block in there, now we're going to have to lay another course of block or 2 courses, whatever, to accommodate for that situation.
Either way, it takes time and money.
Right. And if we hadn't planned this out, we were going to set a little bit lower, and it would have worked out. We just would have had to bring that back down, because we can dig whatever we want out back there. There's nothing stopping us from going deeper. But on the front side, you want a porch with a step, so you're going to have ground, 1 step, and the porch.
Yep.
You wanted that. Well, we needed
the extra
roughly
8 inches.
16 inches or so.
Yeah.
But you also need slope away from the house
right.
on the front. We weren't thinking about that. So
we were so focused on the back, we forgot about the front. So
yeah. And
take a step back and look and think and make sure what you're doing is right.
Yeah, when we had not gotten that far in the planning, we glanced and we're going to do this. We'd look at that and we'd work around. We're cutting trees down. We're moving dirt. We're cleaning up brush and chipping. And then we'd glance over there. Yeah, well, we'd stand there sometimes or get a lawn chair. Well, we usually didn't sit in a lawn chair 5 minutes. But we'll sit there and look at it and say, we need to do this or we need to do that. But getting down on paper and getting out there and really measuring that string level, a couple of pieces of pipe, can tell you a lot.
Yeah.
Set it out there and really think, okay, I've got my porch here. I don't want water running in my house. I want slope everywhere around that house, sloping away from that house, slope downhill, so that hopefully you can keep the water out.
Yep. That's about it.
Yeah. And we'll actually do this and lay it out and dig it out and everything, and that'll be on video as well, so you'll get to see a lot more of the actual work being done, and it might be more obvious. All these crazy lines, this is not professional. This is my mind on paper.
If you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, he's kind of like Sheldon. So
yeah, and like everything I do, I have to count or measure or see how high it is or how low it is.
when we play a game called Phase 10, each person gets dealt 10 cards. He counts as I deal every single card. It drives me nuts.
Can't help it.
He's the count.
If I don't count, I'm moving my eyes, and they're like, yeah, you're moving your eyes. We know you're counting.
So
What can I say? I count. It's just what I do.
Well, we hope those of you that have hung on for this entire video have enjoyed it, found it helpful, and there's going to be a lot more detailed videos coming up because we're getting into the very detailed stages of what we're doing. So
Yep. Plan ahead. If you don't plan, you're going to probably make some mistakes that you regret later. And probably nothing that's unfixable, but it's a whole lot easier to get this figured out. We just saved ourselves a course of block or digging a bunch of dirt out.
A lot of time.
Planning this out and actually measuring it. Eyeballing works okay when you're getting it roughed, but when you're really getting ready to set that house in there, you want to know how deep do I want to go exactly. So
my favorite part of what you just said was getting ready to set that house in there. We're getting really close. Just have to work it in with our work schedule.
Yeah,
so
it's going to happen.
Yep. All right. If you like what you're seeing, give us that big thumbs up for a like, comment, share with your friends, and check back often. We're about to start those houses.
See ya.